Pac Man is one of the most iconic video game mascots of all time, right up there next to the OGs like Mario, Sonic, Pikachu, Link, Donkey Kong, Kirby, and such. Having been around since the 1980s, while he's not quite as big of a household name nowadays, no one can deny how instrumental he was in shaping the modern video game landscape. Given the legacy he carried, it was only a matter of time before he would be added to Smash Bros., known for boasting a roster featuring plenty of the most famous gaming characters in the world. While his initial debut in Smash 4 was underwhelming, and that's putting it lightly considering he's bottom 10 in that game, Pac Man was a recipient of some very much appreciated buffs, both in regards to direct adjustments to him as well as universal systems changes. The buffs were sufficient enough to make him a meta-relevant threat in the early days of the game, with the first iteration of the tier list placing him at a respectable rank 14, due in no small part to T being one of the best players in the world at that time. But what about nowadays? Even though many people talk about, or should I say complain about Pac-Man's arsenal of extremely good moves, why did he seemingly vanish off the face of the planet? In today's episode of Why No One Plays, we'll be finding out why. Trying to ascertain what type of character Pac-Man's supposed to be might as well be a fool's errand. You can make a decent argument for him to be a combination of different playstyles and archetypes, yet at the same time labeling him a jack of all trades would also be inaccurate, since not many would lump him in with the generalist characters like Palutena, Rob, Wolf, and so on. Then what in the seven hells is he? If I were to pinpoint what he could be, I would say he's an area controller. Area controllers are different from zoners in that their objective isn't necessarily to try to threaten your stock at a far distance, although don't misunderstand, Pac-Man does indeed have the means to do so. Rather, area controllers essentially take the trapping philosophy of rendering sections of the stage hazardous to elicit a forced error from their opponent, but in addition to advantage state, they can apply it in neutral. As an example, Steve and Snake are two of the best characters in the game, and they just so happen to be area controllers. By placing a wall of blocks, or blocks anywhere for that matter, Steve can exert implicit pressure on the opponent by limiting their approach and pressure options. Even though said opponent isn't under immediate tangible threat, the deck is stacked in favor of Steve for when either side eventually takes action. Same applies to Snake. His grenades in C4 double as both zoning and area control tools, making dealing with him in neutral a far more onerous task than against other characters. Pac-Man's the same, with the help of his Hydra not only serving as a physical object with a collision radius, meaning you can stand on it and get blocked by it, but also with the water streams it ejects every so often, forcibly displacing either player, it adds a third element to neutral advantage and disadvantage you have to account for. During this time, Pac-Man's able to sit back and access a wide range of different projectiles by way of bonus fruit. Cherry has a low bounce before damaging opponents. Strawberry has the same thing, only it does more damage and has a longer projectile lifespan. Orange travels in a straight line and has a horizontal knockback angle, which makes it great for gimping opponents who can only recover vertically. Apple goes straight diagonally downward and deals good damage, being the first bonus fruit mentioned so far that can kill enemies at a reasonable percent, especially if they DI it incorrectly, and that tends to happen often given a vertical knockback angle. Melon's the most unique projectile so far in that it travels extremely slowly to the point where it practically stays in place. Despite that, it deals high damage and possesses roughly the same kill power as Apple, a great option for controlling space, especially near the ledge. The final three projectiles are ironically not fruits, but they're easily his most dangerous. Galaxian has poor knockback, but it travels in a shuttle loop, being able to damage enemies multiple times and serving as Pac-Man's primary damage tracking tool. Bell travels in, unsurprisingly, a bell curve before falling straight down, causing an electric effect if it hits the target, allowing whoever threw it to lead into pretty much anything they want, including smash attacks. Finally, Key. Interestingly enough, it's the most conventional projectile of the 8, a straight-line fast-traveling penetrating projectile that deals high damage and has good kill power, slightly more than its other killing fruits like Apple and Melon. Although compared to other charge shot projectiles, it can be surprisingly weak in raw kill strength, though it makes up for that by once again being a penetrating item. Pac-Man has more projectiles in a single move than the majority of fighters have in their entire kit, and with each of them being so varied in speed, direction, angle, and use case, he can definitely catch a lot of players off guard if they're not ready for it. For crying out loud, he has 8 different throwable items all in one move, each one more dangerous than the last. Bonus Fruit is both the bread and butter and the pièce de résistance of Pac-Man's game plan, offering him near limitless mix-up potential in all facets of the game, neutral, advantage, and disadvantage. When paired with the rest of his moves, he can be, let's just say, annoying to deal with. Normally for other cast members with a penchant for sitting back and chucking stuff at you, once you close distance on them, you could start putting in work, as most of them have poor close quarters combat and/or subpar disadvantage state. Neither of these apply to Pac-Man really. For one, he's one of the hardest characters to edgeguard, which against other zoners and trappers is the main way to take them out. Power Pellet in tandem with this trampoline afford him once again near limitless mix-up potential in getting back to ledge, not to mention the latter being in and of itself an anti-spike tool, since even if you land a down air on him on his way up to ledge, he'll simply hit the trampoline to bounce back up again provided it's not red. Powerpel's custom travel angles combined with Trampoline's verticality and mix-ups effectively make it near impossible to edgeguard Pac Man, let alone gimp him. The only way to beat him out is to take him down on stage, which we've established can be tricky to accomplish against an area controller. CQC is an easy thing for him as well. Pac Man has some of the best close quarters tools in the game, namely forward tilt, dash attack, neutral, forward, and downer. He has absolutely no trouble fighting his way out of a scramble situation to reset back to neutral, and his out of shield game's among the best in the cast. Coupled with a low knockback on most of his attacks, he can easily pull off high damage combos, especially through Galaxian, all while getting plenty of chip damage and extra credit throughout the course of a game. It would be no exaggeration to say fighting Pac Man can be quite annoying. He's akin to Diddy Kong, where his win condition revolves around a throwable item and the rest of his kit is built to follow up on and capitalize on it. Naturally, he'll be spending the most of a match setting up a game state where he can safely charge bonus fruit while being on the lookout to punish you for trying to stop him. At early percents, he usually tries to get some quick hits on you to rack up damage, then towards triple digits, that's when you'll see him fishing for bell confirms, as getting stunned by a bell guarantees a forward or up smash, predictably ending your stock. It's a very mind game mix-up tempo disruption and trapping based game plan. Such a combination of traits would have you believe Pac Man's a really good choice to play in this current meta, where anti-aggression and mix-up options can establish a comfortable safety margin that's desperately needed, one with all the 0 to deaths and insane kill confirms we have to go up against. So then why does no one play Pac Man? Despite being a perennial high tier, once top tier, Pac Man's effectively dropped off the face of the planet. He went from an excellent rank 14 spot during the first tier list to a far less impressive 35th in the present one, resulting in one of the steepest fall-offs of any character in the game. His results have been declining over the years, especially with Zinji, the best Pac Man player in the West, not being active as he used to be, and T having since picked up Kazuya, which I find him using more often as of late. Monsai still competes regularly in Europe, but overall there just hasn't been much representation for him. Where did everything go wrong? This might sound more like an opinion than a reason, but I think a big factor behind no one playing Pac Man is because for all the mix-up options at his disposal, they ultimately all go into one central win condition, and that win condition doesn't really come off all that appealing for most people. Pac Man's very much a death by a thousand cuts type character, not unlike other item-focused characters like Diddy Kong and Peach, as well as zoners like Duck Hunt and Meat Gunner, who have to throw a bunch of different attacks at their opponent before they're eventually able to threaten his stock. It's even more paramount in the case of Pac Man, who is virtually zero ways to actually do so. Disregarding neutral B for a moment, the number of ways Pac Man can kill might be as few and far between as it is on Sheik. He really just doesn't have much of anything to close out stocks. Forward tilt will not kill until maybe 180% at best. Up tilt will never kill, period. Down tilt's more of a poke tool than a kill move. Dash attack, despite being excellent for approaching thanks to being safe on shield and catching landings, spot dodges and rolls by way of being a multi-hit, will functionally never kill, so his tilts and dash attack don't really pose a threat. Aerials are not much better. Unlike other long-lasting neutral airs which can eventually kill, the angle Pac Man's neutral air sends you at, in addition to non-existent knockback, will have it never killing. Forward air can kill if you do the wall of pain, but usually that's more because of gimping or edge guarding than actual killing. Up air can kill only if the opponent's close to the ceiling and is at 150-160. Down air can kill, but only off stage when trying to edge guard or 2-frame. On stage it won't kill until 150. Back air is the only aerial containing any semblance of KO power, but even then, most of their back airs would kill far earlier than Pac Man's would. Not to mention it's very unsafe on shield for an aerial, and you have to commit to it, being a super floaty character. Realistically, the only instances where Pac Man can close out your stock on stage is through bound to smash attack, key, or some janky setup using fire hydrant. In other words, despite having mix-up potential other cast members would sell their soul for, Pac Man has but a singular game plan, a game plan that entails an extremely slow and steady burn of running from corner to corner, using hydrants to establish area control, charging bonus route for half the game, and then fishing for a smash attack using bell or maybe hydrant at the ledge. To be fair, it's by no means ineffective. Pac Man has adequate tools to play into that win condition, but from an experiential point of view, it's frankly just really boring. Other zoners have more ways to smoke you at early percents or play a fast-paced projectile into attack style. The persistent need to charge bonus fruit to get access to the good ones at the end forces Pac Man to slow the game down to a crawl and, more importantly, maintain that speed in perpetuity. You seldom get the opportunity to play quote-unquote fast on him because if you try to, all you're doing is needlessly exposing yourself to more risk. The most effective way to play Pac Man is to camp and punish, which, like I said before, is a very secure way to play in the current meta. But if your goal is to do that, there are plenty of other characters who can do that while additionally having the option to engage in other playstyles. Take Rob for example. Rob can absolutely camp and play like Pac Man, but he can also go from slow to fast and start boxing and blowing you up all over the place. Pac Man doesn't really have that luxury. The bigger the player base of a character is, the more likely it is for that character to have top players. We have a ton of top level Steve players because Steve has a huge player base. It's hard to get a lot of top 100 players when there's only like 40 half-decent Pac Man mains across the world. He definitely also has a bit of a learning curve. You can't just pick up and play Pac Man the same way you can pick up Wolf or Palutena. That's why earlier I said you'd be hard pressed to call him a generalist character. Pac Man does have a conventional win condition, but he goes about it rather unconventionally. On the subject of win condition, second issue is that Pac Man's win condition has one very major weak point to it, or technically I guess you can say two. Considering Pac Man has to play towards a very slow win condition, that gives his opponent plenty of time to adapt to whatever he's trying to do. Unlike Steve, who permanently gains advantage by mining, thereby pressuring his opponent to stop him from doing so, and unlike Snake, who actively hurts you while controlling space, Pac Man charging a bonus route's only a problem if he can actually hit you with it. There's no real consequence to sitting back and letting him stack up a Bell, Galaxian, or Key. Once he throws it, he'll have to sit back and charge up another one, whereas if Steve gets Diamond, it stays with him until it breaks or he dies after crafting tools. Slow burn playstyles lose a ton of their threat potential if the opponent is willing and or able to play a slow burn themselves. Normally you can mix that up by playing fast, like how Snake's able to alternate between chucking grenades 24/7 to suddenly dash attacking in and blasting you with his tilts and aerials. Anyone who's equally content to camp the hell out of you or not approach will lead to a stalemate situation that Pac Man cannot force himself out of in light of his overdependence on bonus fruit. On that front, Pac Man got totally annihilated by DLC and meta circumstance. Kazuya, Sephiroth, Min, Aegis, and Steve all give him trouble for one reason or another. Even Fighters Pass 1 causes trouble for him. Joker and Terry are even at best, meanwhile Violet and Hero can wall him out for the entire set, with the latter in particular flat out nullifying Pac Man's greatest strength once acquiring bounce. Additionally, most of the popular and or high-performing characters at the moment like Falco, Game & Watch, Clown, Rob, Samus, and Palutena can handle him too. That's not to say Pac Man has no options against them if they're unfamiliar with the matchup, and to be fair, many people are unfamiliar with the matchup. You'll still be able to catch them off guard, but when we're talking about high and top level where players can adapt to their opponent mid-set, combining that with Pac Man naturally playing games at a slow pace, it's easy to create a working stratagem on the fly against him. Overall though, I think the biggest issue with Pac Man's declining pick rate is Steve. Steve is by all accounts an infinitely better Pac Man. Both like to set down some kind of obstructive terrain to buy them time to get to a certain resource. Only Diamond for Steve is like if Pac Man's bonus fruit permanently became Bell for the remainder of the stock. Both have close quarters tools, but Steve's is even faster, has better combo potential, is disjointed thanks to being tools, and he has plenty of ways to kill you either off a confirm or off a straight hit like back air, forward smash. Yes, raw forward smash is a very frequently spammed option by Steve players, up smash, minecart, anvil, etc, etc. Both characters are next to impossible to edgeguard on account of their recovery mix-ups and overall distance coverage. Both characters excel at ledge trapping, only in Steve's case he can outright screw over people before they can even so much as get back to ledge. Both characters are a pain to deal with, but for Pac Man, it's more of a psychological thing, while for Steve, it's a physical thing. Looking at it from the stance of pragmatism, there's no reason to play Pac Man over Steve or even Snake if your goal is to play an area controller. All in all, Pac Man's got a lot of stuff, but on top of a subjectively tedious playstyle, there are simply better options to play than him. Kind of like what I said in the Mega Man episode, Pac Man's more than viable, but he doesn't have quite enough to justify being played over someone better. Frankly though, I'm okay with that, because I hate fighting Pac Man even though my character beats him. Anyway, that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts on Pac Man in the comments down below, whether you agree or disagree with my points. For now though, if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter @Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other Why No One Plays episodes if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
I cannot focus on this. This is so much fun to watch.
Oh, okay. Efto actually almost taking it. Like both these players have super high percents that pretty much even the tilts will be enough to take it. But oh, trying to set up for a hydrant combo, gets hit by a hydrant from the other side.
That was an amazing show match. Yes. I hope